The chandelier light caught the diamonds at the new woman's throat. Zainab Bello stood frozen in the doorway of the Han family dining hall, her breath trapped somewhere between her chest and her lips. 23 guests. White orchids. Gold-rimmed plates. And there, at the head of the table, her husband. Han Jun Okoye sat motionless, his Korean African heritage tattoo dark against his neck, visible above his collar. His jaw was locked. His eyes were fixed on the tablecloth. Beside him sat a woman Zainab had never seen before. Young, Korean, elegant, sitting in her chair. Madame Han rose slowly, her silk hanbok rustling like a whisper of war. "Everyone," her mother-in-law announced, her voice carrying across the silent room, "I would like to introduce Seo Yun Park. The wife Han Jun truly deserves." The room fell into suffocating stillness. 23 pairs of eyes turned toward the doorway, toward Zainab. And in that moment, she understood. She was not late to dinner. She was late to her own replacement. Thank you so much for being here. If this story moves you, please like, share, and subscribe so we can continue bringing you powerful stories of love, betrayal, and redemption. Now, let us go back to the beginning. 3 years earlier, Zainab Bello had believed in miracles. She believed in them because she had lived one, a girl from Kano, Nigeria, with nothing but her education and her dignity, somehow finding herself loved by one of Seoul's most powerful men. Han Jun Okoye had not swept her off her feet. He had studied her, watched her from across conference rooms and charity galas, memoized her patterns, learned the way she held her wine glass, the way she never laughed too loudly, the way she carried herself like someone who had learned early that survival required grace. When he finally spoke to her, it was not with charm. It was with certainty. "You don't belong here," he had said, his voice low, his Korean African heritage tattoo visible on his wrist as he handed her a glass of water she hadn't asked for. She had stiffened. "Excuse me." "Neither do I." That was the beginning. Han Jun was not a man who explained himself. He was the silent sovereign of an empire that stretched from Seoul's glittering boardrooms to Lagos's underground networks. His father had been Nigerian, a businessman who built his fortune in the shadows. His mother was Korean, old money, old power, old cruelty. The combination had created something dangerous, something controlled, something watching. He spoke rarely. When he did, people listened not because his voice was loud, but because his silence had already told them everything they needed to say. Zainab had not feared him. Perhaps that was her first mistake. Their courtship had been unconventional. He did not send flowers. He sent information, a scholarship fund established in her late father's name, her mother's medical bills quietly erased, her younger brother's university fees handled without explanation. When she confronted him, furious at the invasion of her privacy, he had simply looked at her. "You were going to refuse me," he said. "I still might." "No." His eyes, dark, piercing, unreadable, held hers. "You won't." She should have run. Instead, she married him. The wedding had been a quiet affair, Han Jun's insistence. His mother had wanted spectacle. She had wanted a Korean bride from a suitable family, a union that would strengthen alliances and purify bloodlines. Instead, she got Zainab. Madame Han's smile at the wedding had been porcelain perfect and ice-cold. "Welcome to the family," she had said, her fingers light on Zainab's arm, her nails pressing just hard enough to leave crescents in the skin. "I do hope you survive it." The first year had been a slow suffocation. Not from Han Jun. He was distant, yes, but not cruel. He walked constantly, disappearing into the machinery of his empire, returning late with shadows under his eyes and blood occasionally staining his cuffs. He never explained. She never asked. But when he was home, he watched her. Always watching. She would look up from her book to find his eyes on her face. She would turn in the hallway to find him standing at the other end, motionless, as if memoizing her existence. "Why do you do that?" she asked once. "Do what?" "Watch me like I'm going to disappear." He had not answered. But that night, he had pulled her close in his sleep, his arm locked around her waist, his breath warm against her neck. She had not understood then. She understood now. He had been waiting for her to leave. Everyone left him eventually. The suffocation came from Madame Han. The weekly family dinners. The subtle corrections. "In Korea, we do not speak so loudly, Zainab." The gifts that were really insults, skin-lightening creams, Korean language tutors who reported back on her progress, dresses chosen specifically to remind her she did not belong. The worst were the comparisons. Madame Han kept photographs of Han Jun's childhood on her walls, posed, perfect, suffocating. And beside them, photographs of women. Korean women. Suitable women. Seo Yun Park's family asked about June again, Madam Han would say casually over tea. Such a shame he made his choice before meeting her. She would have been appropriate. Zainab learned to smile through it. She learned to be silent. She learned to disappear inside herself, to become small and still, to give Madam Han nothing to attack. But silence is not the same as surrender. By the second year, the marriage had begun to fracture. Not because of hatred. Worse, because of distance. Han Jun was pulling away, and Zainab did not know why. The watching continued, but the touching stopped. The late nights became later. The conversations became shorter. And then came the letters. She found the first one in his study, tucked beneath a stack of business documents. It was written in Korean. Her language skills were improving, but slowly, and the handwriting was feminine, elegant, familiar. My son, it read, I have made arrangements. The Park family is willing to wait. When you are ready to correct your mistake, the path will be open. The path. Zainab's hands trembled as she set the letter down. Madam Han was not just waiting for her to leave. She was building a door. The second letter came a week later. This one, Zainab found in the pocket of Han Jun's coat, crumpled and partially torn. She is not one of us. She will never understand our world. Release her before she destroys everything you have built. Release her. Like a burden. Like a mistake. Zainab did not confront him. She did not cry. She simply stood in their bedroom, holding the letter, feeling the last of her hope crumble into ash. Han Jun found her there an hour later. His eyes went to the paper in her hands. His jaw tightened. His tattoo, the intricate pattern that traced from his neck to his collarbone, symbols of his dual heritage, seemed to darken under the low light. Where did you get that? Your coat. Silence stretched between them, vast and cold. It means nothing, he said finally. Your mother wants me gone. My mother wants many things. And what do you want? He looked at her then, really looked, the way he had in the beginning, and for a moment, she saw something beneath the ice. Something desperate. Something afraid. But he did not answer. He turned and walked away. The third year was the hardest. Zainab stopped trying to bridge the distance. She stopped attending family dinners. She stopped smiling through Madam Han's cruelties. Instead, she'd built her own quiet life within the walls of the Han estate, reading, painting, volunteering at a women's shelter in Itaewon. She made friends Madam Han did not approve of. She reclaimed pieces of herself that she had surrendered. And she waited. She was not sure what she was waiting for, a sign, a confession, a reason to stay or a reason to leave. But waiting was all she had left. Han Jun watched her from the shadows. He watched her laugh with the shelter volunteers. Watched her paint sunsets that reminded him of Lagos, of the homeland he had never fully claimed. Watched her grow stronger in the absence of his presence. He should have been relieved. Instead, he was terrified. She was becoming someone who did not need him, and he could not survive that. She's pulling away, he told his lieutenant, Park Sung-minute, late one night in his office. Sung-minute, a man who had served the Han family for 20 years and kept more secrets than the Seoul Intelligence Service, simply nodded. And what will you do about it? Han Jun's fingers traced the edge of his whiskey glass. The tattoo on his wrist caught the light, geometric patterns interwoven with Adinkra symbols, a map of who he was. I don't know. Your mother is escalating. The Park family has been to dinner 3 times this month. I am aware. The Seoyeon girl is persistent. Han Jun's grip on the glass tightened. I have no interest in Seoyeon Park. Your mother has enough interest for both of you. Silence. Han Jun turned to the window, looking out at the Seoul skyline, the city glittering like scattered diamonds. I am losing her, he said quietly. Then stop. It's not that simple. It never is. Sung-minute rose, straightening his jacket. But simplicity has never stopped you before. The invitation arrived on a Monday. Heavy cream cardstock, gold embossing, the Han family crest pressed into crimson wax. You are cordially invited to the Han family annual autumn dinner. Zainab held the invitation, her stomach tightening. She had skipped the last 3 family dinners. Madam Han had said nothing, which was somehow worse than her usual Bob comments. Silence from Madam Han was never good. She almost didn't go. She stood in her closet for an hour, staring at the dresses Madam Han had chosen for her, all of them designed to make her invisible, to blend into the background, to remind everyone that she was a guest in her own home. Then she saw it. Tucked in the back, still wrapped in tissue paper, was the dress she had worn to her wedding reception, a custom design, rich emerald silk with gold embroidery, Nigerian elegance blended with Korean refinement. Han Jun had chosen it for her. "Wear this," he had said, his voice unusually soft. "So everyone knows exactly who you are." She had not worn it since. Tonight, she would. The Han family estate was a monument to controlled perfection. Traditional Korean architecture blended with modern luxury, Hanok-style rooflines over walls of glass and steel, gardens designed to appear effortlessly natural, every stone and flower placed with mathematical precision. 23 guests filled the dining hall, all of them selected for power, wealth, or strategic alliance. Zainab recognized most of them, business partners, old family friends, politicians whose support Madame Han had carefully cultivated. What she did not recognize was the woman sitting at the head of the table, beside her husband, in her chair. Time seemed to stop. Zainab's entrance had been quiet. She had learned long ago that Madame had preferred her arrivals to be invisible, but now every eye was on her. The emerald dress suddenly felt like armor, and she was grateful for it. She stood straighter, lifted her chin, let the weight of their stares slide off her like water, and then she looked at Han Jun. He was motionless. His jaw was locked so tight she could see the muscle jumping beneath his skin. His tattoo, the intricate pattern that traced up his neck, seemed almost alive in the candlelight, dark against his collar. His hands were on the table, perfectly still, but his knuckles were white. Madame Han rose. She was resplendent in a silk hanbok, her silver hair pinned with jade, her smile sharp enough to draw blood. "Ah, Zainab, how lovely of you to finally join us." The words were honey-coated venom. Zainab did not flinch. "Madame Han, I was just introducing our guest of honor to the family." Madame Han gestured to the young woman beside Han Jun. "This is Seo-yeon Park. She comes from a very suitable family." Seo-yeon smiled, a practiced, perfect smile that did not reach her eyes. "It's wonderful to finally meet the family," she said, her voice soft and melodic. "I've heard so much." Zainab felt the room tilt. The family. Not your husband's family. Not the Han family. The family. As if she were already part of it. "Seo-yeon will be staying with us for the autumn season," Madame Han continued, her eyes fixed on Zainab like a predator watching prey. "She and June have so much to discuss. Business matters, of course. But also—" She paused, letting the silence fill with implication. "Other matters." 23 guests stared. 23 guests understood. This was not an introduction. This was a coronation. Zainab forced herself to breathe. She had survived worse than this. She had buried her father at 17, worked 3 jobs to support her mother, clawed her way through university on scholarships and sheer determination. She would not break here. Not in front of these people. Not for Madame Han's satisfaction. "How wonderful," Zainab said, her voice perfectly even. "I'm sure Seo-yeon will find the estate educational." A ripple of surprise went through the room. Madame Han's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Indeed. Perhaps you could show her around, since you have so much free time." The insult was clear. Useless wife. Barren marriage. Wasted years. Zainab smiled back, and there was nothing submissive in it. "I'm sure Seo-yeon would prefer a tour from someone who actually belongs here." She turned and walked away, her emerald dress catching the light, her head held high. Behind her, she heard the sharp intake of Madame Han's breath. And beneath that, so quiet she almost missed it, the sound of Han Jun's chair pushing back from the table. She made it to the garden before her composure cracked. The autumn air was cold, biting through the silk of her dress, but she welcomed it. Cold was better than the suffocating heat of that room, the weight of those stairs, the devastating reality of what had just happened. She was being replaced. Publicly, systematically, with her husband's silent consent. "Zainab." His voice came from behind her, low and controlled. She did not turn around. "Go back to your dinner, Han Jun. Look at me." "Why?" "So you can watch me cry." She laughed, and the sound was brittle, broken. "I've given you 3 years of my life. My dignity. My hope. And this is what I get. A public execution." "I didn't know." She spun then, and the rage in her eyes made him step back. "You didn't know. Your mother arranged a formal dinner to introduce your future wife, and you didn't know." His jaw tightened. The tattoo on his neck seemed to pulse with his heartbeat. "My mother does not inform me of her schemes." "Then stop her." It's not that simple. It is that simple. Zainab's voice cracked. You choose. You stand up. You tell them I am your wife and I am not going anywhere. But you won't, will you? Because you've already decided. Silence. Devastating, confirming silence. Zainab nodded slowly, tears finally spilling down her cheeks. I see. She turned and walked toward the guest house at the edge of the property. The place she had started sleeping when sharing a bed with him became unbearable. Han Jun watched her go. His hands were shaking. His heart was shattering. And he did nothing. Seo Yun Park was not unintelligent. She had seen the way Han Jun looked at his wife, the barely concealed desperation, the tension in his body, the way his eyes followed her even when he should have been focused on the guests. This was not a man who wanted a new wife. This was a man in chains. Your mother is very determined, Seo Yun said quietly, later that evening, when the guests had departed and she found herself alone with Han Jun in his study. He did not look up from the documents on his desk. My mother is many things. She believes this arrangement will benefit both families. My mother believes many things. Seo Yun studied him, the sharp jaw, the cold eyes, the controlled stillness that radiated power. You love her, she said. Your wife. Now he looked up. His gaze was ice and fire, warning and despair. What I feel is not your concern. It is if I'm expected to replace her. Han Jun's hand closed around his pen, the pressure turning his knuckles white. You will not replace her. Then why am I here? Silence stretched between them. Finally, Han Jun spoke. Because I am a fool who does not know how to fight for what he loves. The days following the dinner were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Madame Han installed Seo Yun in the east wing of the main house, a suite that had been prepared for guests but was suspiciously close to Han Jun's office. Breakfast became a performance. Seo Yun, elegant and poised, joining the family table as if she had always been there. Madame Han, orchestrating conversations that excluded Zainab entirely. Han Jun, silent and stone-faced, his tattoo visible above his collar, his eyes fixed on nothing. Zainab stopped attending. She threw herself into her work at the women's shelter instead. The shelter, a small organization she had helped fund with the monthly allowance Han Jun provided, served women escaping domestic violence, trafficking, and exploitation. It was located in a quiet neighborhood in Itaewon, far from the glittering world of the Han estate. Hey, she was not the inadequate wife. Hey, she was useful. Hey, she could breathe. You look terrible, said Kwon Amire, the shelter's director, setting a cup of tea in front of Zainab. Zainab smiled weakly. Thank you for your honesty. It's what you pay me for. Amire sat across from her, her sharp eyes softening with concern. What's happening? My mother-in-law is replacing me with a more suitable model. Ah. Amire nodded slowly. The classic Korean mother-in-law move. I thought yours would be more creative. She brought the replacement to a formal dinner, introduced her to 23 guests, sat her in my chair. Amire winced. Okay, that is creative. Zainab laughed despite herself, and the sound was watery. What does your husband say? Amire asked. Nothing. He says nothing. He does nothing. He watches me like I'm disappearing, but he won't lift a finger to stop it. Then maybe it's time to make your own decisions. Zainab looked up, meeting Amire's steady gaze. What do you mean? I mean you've spent 3 years trying to belong to a family that doesn't want you. Maybe it's time to remember who you were before them. The words landed like stones in still water, sending ripples through Zainab's carefully constructed composure. Who was she before Han Jun? She could barely remember. That night, she dreamed of Lagos. She dreamed of her father's laugh, her mother's hands braiding her hair, the smell of jollof rice drifting through their small apartment. She dreamed of university, late nights studying, fierce debates with classmates, the burning certainty that she would become something. Someone. She woke with tears on her cheeks and an unfamiliar feeling in her chest. Hope. Or maybe just anger. She wasn't sure anymore. Han Jun found her leaving the next morning. She was dressed simply, jeans, a sweater, her natural hair pulled back, heading toward the driver waiting at the estate's side entrance. Where are you going? His voice stopped her mid-step. She did not turn around. The shelter. You've been going every day. Is that a problem? Silence. I would prefer if you stayed. Now she turned, and the look in her eyes made him flinch. You would prefer? That's interesting. Because I would prefer not to share breakfast with your mother's chosen replacement. I would prefer a husband who remembers I exist. I would prefer, her voice cracked. I would prefer a lot of things, Han Jun. But we don't always get what we want. She turned and walked away. He watched her go. His hands were shaking again. Later that evening, Madame Han summoned him. Her private sitting room was decorated in traditional style, elegant, austere, suffocating. She sat in a carved chair like a queen on her throne, her eyes fixed on her only son. Sit. Han Jun remained standing. What do you want? I want you to fulfill your duty to this family. My duty. You married that woman against my wishes. I allowed it because I believed she might bear children, might prove herself useful. She has done neither. She is my wife. She is a mistake. Madame Han's voice sharpened. One that can still be corrected. Seo Yun comes from an excellent family. Her father's connections would strengthen our position in the National Assembly. Her bloodline is. Her bloodline. Han Jun's voice was dangerously quiet. You mean Korean? I mean suitable. And Zainab is not suitable because she is African. She is not suitable because she is nothing. Madame Han rose, her silk hanbok rustling. No family, no connections, no power. She brings nothing to this dynasty but your misplaced affection. My affection is not misplaced. Then control it. They stared at each other, mother and son, two predators assessing weaknesses. I will not divorce her, Han Jun said finally. Then I will make her leave on her own. The threat hung in the air, cold and certain. If you touch her. I don't need to touch her. Madame Han smiled. I just need to show her what she already knows. That she will never belong here. That she will never be enough. That you will never choose her over your family. Han Jun's hands clenched at his sides. His mother saw it. Her smile widened. Go, she said. We done. He turned and walked away, and for the first time in his life, he felt something he had never felt before. Desperation. His name was David Okonkwo. He was Nigerian-Korean, like Han Jun, but where Han Jun was ice, David was warmth. Where Han Jun controlled, David welcomed. Where Han Jun watched in silence, David spoke in laughter and easy conversation. He appeared at the shelter one Tuesday afternoon, carrying boxes of donated supplies and a smile that reminded Zainab of home. You must be Zainab, he said, setting down the boxes. Emire told me about you. Did she? Said you were brilliant, stubborn, and entirely too good for your husband. Zainab blinked, then laughed, a genuine laugh, the first in weeks. Emire has strong opinions. Emire is usually right. David extended his hand. David Okonkwo. I run the logistics for several shelters in the area. We'll be working together. His handshake was warm and firm. His smile reached his eyes. For the first time in months, Zainab felt something loosen in her chest. Over the following weeks, David became a constant presence. He helped with supply runs, paperwork, volunteer coordination. He made her laugh with stories of his chaotic Nigerian-Korean upbringing. He brought her lunch when she forgot to eat, coffee when she worked late. He treated her like a person. Not a burden. Not a mistake. Not a disappointment. Just a person. Your husband is a fool, David said one evening, watching Zainab sort through donation records. She looked up, startled. Excuse me. A fool. Anyone who makes you look like this, he gestured vaguely at her face. Like you're disappearing. That's a fool. Zainab set down her papers. You don't know him. I know he's not here. I know you work yourself to exhaustion so you don't have to go home. I know you smile like someone who's forgotten what happiness feels like. She wanted to argue. She couldn't. My marriage is complicated. Most marriages are. But complicated doesn't mean dead. David leaned forward, his expression serious. You deserve better, Zainab. Whether that's with him or without him, you deserve better. The words settled into her heart like seeds finding soil. She did not respond. But she remembered them. Han Jun knew about David within 3 days. His intelligence network, the same system that tracked rival businesses, political enemies, and potential threats, flagged the new presence in his wife's life before David had even learned her full name. Nigerian-Korean businessman. Legitimate operations. No criminal connections. Excellent reputation. In other words, everything Han Jun should have been. He watched them from a distance. He told himself it was security, ensuring Zainab's safety, monitoring potential risks. But the truth was simpler and more pathetic. He was jealous. Burning, aching, helpless jealous. The photographs landed on his desk a week later. Sung Min had placed them without comment, standard surveillance shots, technically innocent but devastating in their implications. Zainab laughing at something David said. David touching her shoulder as he helped her into his car. The two of them sitting close at a cafe, their heads bent together over paperwork. Han Jun stared at the images until his vision blurred. Do you want me to intervene? Sung Min asked carefully. No. The contact is escalating. If this continues. I said no. Sung Min hesitated, then nodded. As you wish. He left the office, closing the door quietly behind him. Han Jun sat alone in the darkness, the photographs spread before him, his heart cracking along fault lines he had thought were already destroyed. He went to her that night. Not to the main house, she had stopped sleeping there weeks ago, but to the guest house, the small traditional building at the edge of the property where she had built her quiet exile. The lights were on. Through the window, he could see her sitting at the small desk, writing something in a journal. Her hair was loose. Her face was soft. She looked more at peace than he had seen her in months. And he realized, with devastating clarity, that she was finding that peace without him. He knocked. The sound seemed too loud in the quiet night. Footsteps. A pause. Then the door opened. Zainab stood before him in a simple robe, her expression carefully neutral. Han Jun. May I come in? It's midnight. I know. She studied him for a long moment, the tension in his jaw, the shadows under his eyes, the way his hands hung at his sides like he had forgotten how to use them. Then she stepped aside. The guest house was small but elegant, traditional Korean architecture with modern touches, the space she had made entirely her own. Books stacked on surfaces. Art supplies in corners. Photographs of her family on the walls. No photographs of their wedding. No photographs of him. Han Jun felt the absence like a blade. Why are you here? She asked, folding her arms. I needed to see you. You see me every day. No. I watch you every day. It's not the same. She laughed, and the sound was bitter. Now you admit it. I admit many things. He stepped closer, and she stepped back. I admit I have failed you. I admit my mother's cruelty has destroyed something precious. I admit, his voice cracked. I admit I am losing you. You lost me a long time ago. No. The word was fierce, desperate. You're still here. Still in my house. Still wearing my ring. That means something. It means I haven't finished leaving yet. The words hit him like physical blows. Don't. Don't what? Don't leave. Give me a reason to stay. Silence stretched between them, vast and aching. Han Jun's hands trembled. His heart pounded against his ribs. The tattoo on his neck seemed to burn, his heritage, his identity, everything he was supposed to be. I love you, he said. And the confession sounded like surrender. Zainab stared at him. 3 years. 3 years of silence, of distance, of watching him choose his family's expectations over her existence. And now, at midnight, in the quiet house where she had built her escape. I love you. That's not enough, she said. I know. Your mother will never accept me. I know. You have done nothing to stop her. I know. Then what are you offering me? Love without action. Words without proof. Han Jun closed the distance between them. She backed against the wall, her breath catching, her heart racing despite everything. He stopped inches away. Close enough to touch. Too close to think. I am offering you myself, he said, his voice low and rough. Not the version my mother controls. Not the businessman or the syndicate leader or the silent sovereign. Me. The man who has watched you every day for 3 years because I cannot look away. The man who memorized the way you laugh, the way you cry, the way you hold your coffee cup with both hands when you're cold. He raised his hand slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek, and the touch was electric, devastating. I know I have failed you, he whispered. I know I have given you nothing but silence when you deserve answers. But I cannot, his voice broke. I cannot watch you fall in love with someone else. Zainab's eyes widened. What? The Nigerian. David Okonkwo. I have seen the photographs. I have watched you laugh with him, smile with him, become someone new with him. You've been watching. I'm always watching. His thumb traced her cheekbone. I cannot help it. You are the only thing in my world worth seeing. She should push him away. She should remind him of every hurt, every silence, every moment he chose peace over her protection. Instead, she felt tears slide down her cheeks and hated herself for them. "David is a friend," she said. "Friends don't look at you like that." "Like what?" "Like they are wondering what you taste like." Heat flooded her face despite her anger. "You have no right." "I have every right. You are my wife." "A wife you ignored. A wife you abandoned to your mother's cruelty. A wife you were perfectly willing to watch dissipate." "I was never willing." His hand cupped her face, his grip gentle but desperate. "I was afraid. I have spent my entire life being told that attachment makes me weak. That love is a vulnerability my enemies will exploit. I watched my father destroy himself over a woman, and I swore." He stopped, his jaw locked. The confession hung between them, half-formed and devastating. "Your father," Zainab whispered. "Another time." Han Jun's eyes were burning, and for the first time, she saw fear in them. "Please, just tell me I haven't lost you completely." She didn't answer that night. Instead, she asked him to leave, and he did, walking into the cold darkness with a silence wrapped around him like chains. But something had shifted. The wall between them had cracked, and cracks, once formed, only grow. Madame Han sensed the change immediately. Her intelligence network, different from her son's but equally extensive, reported that Han Jun had visited the guest house, that he had stayed for over an hour, that he had left looking destroyed. This was not acceptable. She summoned Seo-yun the next morning. "The timeline is accelerating," she said, pouring tea with deliberate precision. "My son is wavering. The African woman has more hold on him than I anticipated." Seo-yun sipped her tea, expression carefully neutral. "What would you have me do?" "Force his hand." Madame Han's eyes glittered. "Make it clear that she is not the only option, that you are ready, willing, and infinitely more suitable. He loves her. Love fades. Power endures." Madame Han set down the teapot with a decisive click. "Tomorrow evening, there will be a business dinner with representatives from the Park Holdings Board. I have told them Han Jun will be in attendance, with his fiancée." Seo-yun's cup paused halfway to her lips. "Fiancé? They do not need to know the details. They need to see the alliance taking shape." Madame Han smiled, and it was the smile of a predator closing in. "Wear something spectacular. And stay close to my son. Very close." Zainab heard about the dinner from the household staff. She had never particularly befriended them. Madame had discouraged such things, but they pitied her, and pity loosens tongues. "The madam is arranging a formal engagement dinner," whispered Suni, the young maid who sometimes brought Zainab's tea, "for the master and Miss Park. Tomorrow evening." Zainab's hands stilled on the book she was pretending to read. "An engagement dinner?" "Yes. The Park family has agreed to overlook existing complications in exchange for favorable business terms." Soon Wai's eyes were wide with sympathetic horror. "I'm sorry. I thought you should know." She found Han Jun in his study that afternoon. He looked up when she entered, surprise flickering across his face before settling into that familiar, guarded stillness. "Zainab, is it true?" "Is what true?" "Tomorrow, the dinner. Your engagement to Seo-yun Park." His jaw tightened. The tattoo on his neck seemed to pulse. "I did not agree to." "But you knew about it." "Silence. Your mother is announcing your engagement. To another woman. While I am still your wife. And you knew." "I learned of it this morning." "And you did nothing." "I am handling it." "How?" Zainab's voice cracked. "By attending. By standing beside her while your family announces your betrayal. By proving to everyone that I was right, that I never mattered." He rose, coming around the desk toward her. She held up a hand, stopping him. "No, you don't get to touch me. You don't get to say you love me in the dark and then stand beside another woman in the light." Her eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. "I deserve better than this." "You do. Then do something about it." The words echoed through the study, raw and desperate. Han Jun stood frozen, his hands at his sides, his eyes full of pain he had never learned to express. "I don't know how," he said finally, and the confession was so honest, so broken, that it shattered something in her chest. She left the study without another word. She packed a bag. She called David and asked if he could take her to the airport. And when Han Jun came to the guest house that evening, she was already gone. Zainab is gone. Han Jun stands in her empty room, holding the wedding photograph she left face down on the desk. His mother is preparing for tomorrow's engagement dinner. And somewhere over the ocean, his wife is flying toward a life that doesn't include him. But the silent sovereign does not let go easily. And Madame Han has underestimated exactly how far her son is willing to fall. Han Jun stood in the doorway of the guest house, unable to move. The room was stripped bare. Not entirely. The furniture remained, the curtains, the impersonal touches that had come with the building. But everything that was her had vanished. The books, the art supplies, the photographs of her family that had lined the walls like windows into a world he had never been invited to enter. Gone. All of it gone. His eyes found the desk. A single photograph lay face down on the surface, its frame catching the dim light. He crossed the room slowly, each step heavy with dread. His fingers trembled as he lifted the frame. Their wedding day. She was laughing in the photograph, genuinely laughing, her head thrown back, her eyes crinkled with joy. He stood beside her, and even in the image, he could see the way he was looking at her. Like she was the sun. Like she was the only thing in the universe worth seeing. The glass was cracked. A single fracture running directly through his face. He didn't remember sitting down. He didn't remember the photograph slipping from his fingers. But when Sung Minute found him an hour later, Han Jun was on the floor of the empty guest house, his back against the wall, his eyes fixed on nothing. "Sir." No response. "Sir," the household staff reported. "Where is she?" Sung Minute hesitated. "The airport. Her flight to Lagos departs in 4 hours." Lagos. She was going home. Away from him. Away from everything. Han Jun rose slowly. His body felt foreign, too heavy, too hollow, somehow both at once. The tattoo on his neck seemed to burn against his skin, a reminder of who he was supposed to be. The silent sovereign. The man who controlled empires. The man who never lost. "Cancel the engagement dinner," he said. Sung Minute blinked. "Sir." "Cancel it. Send formal apologies to the Park family. Inform my mother that the arrangement is terminated." "Your mother will." "I am aware of what my mother will do." Han Jun's voice was ice over fire, control barely containing chaos. "I am also aware that I am the head of this family, not her. The dinner is cancelled. The arrangement is void. And if anyone questions my decision—" He turned, and the look in his eyes made Sung Minute step back. "They can take it up with me directly." The drive to the airport took 40 minutes. Han Jun spent every second of it on the phone, calling in favors, issuing orders, dismantling the careful structure his mother had built over months of manipulation. The Park Holdings deal would survive without the marriage alliance. He would make sure of it. Money could replace what personal connection could not secure. His mother's social standing would suffer. The embarrassment of a cancelled engagement, the whispers among the elite families, the quiet satisfaction of her rivals. He did not care. He could not care. The only thing that mattered was 4 hours and counting. Incheon Airport was a cathedral of glass and steel. Han Jun moved through it like a ghost, past security checkpoints that parted for him without question, through private corridors that existed for people like him, toward the international departures terminal where somewhere his wife was waiting to leave him forever. He found her at the gate. She was sitting alone. Her natural hair was pulled back, her face bare of makeup, her body wrapped in a simple sweater and jeans. She looked smaller than he remembered, fragile in a way she never allowed herself to appear. Her boarding pass was in her hands. Her eyes were fixed on the window, watching planes taxi toward runways and futures that didn't include him. Zainab. Her entire body went rigid. Slowly, she turned. The look on her face was not anger. It was not sadness. It was something worse. Resignation. "How did you get through security?" she asked. "I own part of the airport." A bitter laugh escaped her. "Of course you do." He moved closer, stopping when she held up her hand. "Don't. Please."